Hey everybody, Mr. The Fanboy here. This is my final long rant on the WWE. This rant will be based on things they've done in the past 30 to 50 years, not just recent, because for the past couple of weeks I haven't been watching them. I haven't been watching them for several reasons. I only even know about them from several reviews from other people and even spoilers, and I watch a couple of clips. I look at a couple of clips on their YouTube channel, but I don't watch much of WWE. I don't watch much of WWE. It's not even fun to make fun of them. I said I was gonna watch Raw and watch Raw, and NXT to bash and rant on it. It's not even fun to do that anymore. You talk about a company that's done so much to piss me off, that's done so much to anger me. I no longer want anything. I no longer want really much of anything to do with them. Much of anything to do with them. I don't want to watch them. I don't want to watch them. I don't want to associate with their fan base. And yeah, because after some of the stuff I heard, like I said, fuck WWE. After several of the things I've heard. Of course, let's start off with, now this is one issue I totally have a problem with WWE now, and one of the main reasons I don't like WWE anymore. I don't like WWE anymore, and I used to defend people against this when they used to try to claim this. I used to defend people. I used to defend WWE against this. WWE and professional wrestling against this, but it's turned out to be true, at least in WWE's wise, and that is racism. I have a problem with racism in WWE. Of course, I don't care much for the WWE Championship. I think that prize is garbage. I think that is garbage. I like the gold belt better. I think the WWE Championship is like Hulk Hogan. He said in an interview when he was in Japanese wrestling, when he was in New Japan wrestling in the early 90s, he called the WWE belt a toy. A toy. He called the WWE belt a toy, and I agree with him. But still, and it even most recently looked like a toy, but still, that is the highest prize in the WWE. That is the highest prize in the WWE, and not really one African American wrestler except for The Rock, and he's more Samoan, and WWE makes sure to focus more on his Samoan heritage first. Has a African American held held that title. Now, I didn't think wrestlers like Rocky Johnson and Tony Atlas, who were the first African American tag team champions, I didn't think they could be. I didn't think they could be world heavyweight champions. I didn't think they were main event. I didn't think they were main event material. But at the same time, how would I know? How would I know? They were really never given a chance. They were really never given a chance. Next was in the rock and wrestling era. Rock and wrestling era. You had Junkyard Dog, who was over as Hogan and Macho Man, and yet no titles. I don't think he ever held a title in WWE, which goes to show you how meaningless the belts actually are. You know, it's the wrestler who makes the belts, not the belts with the wrestler. But over as Hulk Hogan and still never got a title shot. Next is Bad News Allen. Bad News Allen. Now, I love this guy because he was different from all the other wrestlers in that era. Everyone else was like a cartoon character or someone. You had this guy who was a real legit shoot fighter with a background in judo and amateur wrestling, and a guy who can really shoot if the fight got real. If the fight got real. And with his shooting ability, he could have been the perfect. He could have been the perfect foe for the much larger and muscular Hulk Hogan, and possibly even exceeded him because his moves people would not have been familiar with, would not have been familiar with. But according to him, he's now deceased. But according to him, Vince never lived up to his promise to make him the first African American heavyweight champion. And then two things that really pissed me off. First, let's start off with Piper. At WrestleMania 6, Piper, when he was coming to the ring for his match with Bad News Allen, he painted half of his face. I think it was this side. Yeah, this side of his face black. Now, as a child, as a teenager, when I was hugely into face paint, I actually thought that was badass. As a child, when I would watch a cartoon and the characters would blow up and they would have blackface, I thought it was funny. Now that I am older, now that I older and understand what blackface truly means and how it's a negative depiction of African Americans. Fuck fuck WWE for doing some crap like that, and fuck Roddy Piper and all the wrestlers who agreed to do that crap. Then several years later, you had Goldust appearing full on blackface. Fuck WWE for doing that. Then you got Ahmed Johnson claiming racism. I don't think there's any racism with him. I think he was in line for a good push but got injured, and by the time he came back, the WWE was changing. It was approaching the Attitude Era, and personal problems, and stuff just ruined his WWE career. Then he put on weight. And his wrestling ability started to suffer. He came over to WCW, but he didn't have the same work rate he had when he was in WWE, and I felt that's what happened with Ahmed Johnson. I don't think there was any racism, but he claims racism. If you go watch interviews, past interviews, he claims racism in WWE. Now next is Shelton Benjamin. Huge Shelton Benjamin fan, but I never saw him as world heavyweight champion as main event material. I would have accepted him as a main eventer. Anyone is better than Triple H, John Cena, Batista, and people like that who they were pushing at the time. But this guy never struck me as a main eventer. He didn't have the mic work. And he didn't have the mic work and the charisma to be a world heavyweight champion. But this guy was hugely popular, hugely over. Everyone liked him. A lot of people today call him one of the most misused, underrated wrestlers of all time. And he never got a push. And then they had that horrible mama angle in 2006 where they gave him a mama, not just any mama, but like Off the Rope shows said, a mama who fulfills so many negative stereotypes associated with African American women, man. So that then of course now MVP and Kofi Kingston, in my opinion, they succeeded where Shelton Benjamin failed. They were both good wrestlers and were pretty good on the mic. And MVP and Kofi Kingston, when both of them were coming up, they both got put back in the mid card. When they were rising up against main eventers in late 2009, both of these guys got put right back in the mid card. So MVP and Kofi Kingston weren't good enough to be champions. But you're trying to tell me The Miz, the worst of all, was good enough to be a WWE champion? You're trying to tell me CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, who are awesome, but you're trying to tell me they can be world champions? But Kofi Kingston, who's every bit as good as Daniel Bryan, I don't think he's as good as of a submission wrestler as Daniel Bryan, but I think he's just as, when it comes to mat wrestling, high flying ability, he's just as good, if not better, than Daniel Bryan, and definitely good on the mic. Same goes with MVP. Same goes with MVP. You're trying to tell me that they couldn't be WWE champions? I think both of these guys were better than CM Punk. So you're trying to tell me these guys couldn't be world heavyweight champion, and now Kofi Kingston is the New Day, the worst gimmick of all time. So racism, and there's many more. So that's the first problem I have with WWE. I wanted to be a wrestler for WWE so bad when I was a kid. After learning about their racism, I would still like to wrestle one day, but I want nothing to ever do with the WWE. I want nothing to ever really do with the WWE. F them, fuck them for all this racist crap. And then Hulk Hogan, yes, Hulk Hogan. When Hulk Hogan came out, when he said those remarks on the sex tape, what I agree with Off the Rope show said, what Hulk Hogan said is a representation of what your company has stood for like pretty much the last 50 plus 50 plus years. And now Hulk Hogan, he's trying to beg for forgiveness. He's admitting to his wrong and trying to beg for forgiveness. Trying to beg for forgiveness. You had WWE blacklisting him from the Hall of Fame, removing him, firing him from WWE, and removing all mentions to Hulk Hogan. You have them running from him. So he did something. They did something wrong, and they refused to. Yeah, in typical Vince McMahon fashion, refuses to stay and own up for his crime. Refuses to stay and own up for his crime. Own up for his crime, and actually this time for real change your company for the better, change your company. No, instead we're gonna cower and we're gonna run away from Hulk Hogan when what Hulk Hogan said represents your organization. So fuck WWE for not only doing those things but for being cowards and running away from them. They had the nerve to say after Hulk Hogan came out with his remarks and was fired, they had the nerve, the audacity to say that we provide equal opportunities for all people of all backgrounds. Fuck you, bullshit. And you had the nerve to do that. You had the nerve to do that crap. And then, well, that's racism. Then problems with the actual product. In the 80s, the rock and wrestling era, this was the most popular time for professional wrestling, and you made wrestling mainstream, but most of your ideas were ideas that belonged to someone else first. Hulk Hogan, a lot of those wrestlers were created in AWA. Bret Hart and a lot of those other wrestlers were created in Stampede Wrestling. A lot of the wrestlers you had were created somewhere else and were brought here to WWE. You made wrestling look bad and obviously fake. I can see why people thought wrestling was fake after watching WWE. You had you didn't allow Hulk Hogan to wrestle, and you had real wrestlers like Bret Hart, and many more buried in the mid card, buried technical wrestlers buried in the mid card, buried in the mid card, and then of course mentioned racist characters like Slick. So yeah, then of course it got a little better after the steroid trials. You were forced to change your image. Steroid trials. I have a problem with the steroid trials because Vince McMahon was not found guilty of his crimes, and all the wrestlers chose to lie and didn't speak about steroid use in wrestling like they should have. All the wrestlers chose to lie. Vince McMahon never officially cleaned up his organization, so all the bad stuff he was doing, all the bad stuff, forcing wrestlers to work through pain, forcing them to travel, all of that crap continues today. And because nothing was truly done about steroids and stuff, Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero are no longer alive. Because nothing was done about Vince McMahon. Nothing was done about Vince McMahon treating the wrestlers like circus animals. Owen Hart is no longer alive. So, fuck WWE and fuck the wrestlers for not standing up and doing something about this. Fuck them. Fuck those guys for allowing. Fuck those guys for allowing. Fuck those guys for allowing Vince McMahon to do this stuff and not walking out on the company. So yeah. Then of course in my favorite era, the new generation era, you had the Click running stuff, burying Bret Hart in the mid card in 1995 while Kevin Nash was allowed to be champion in one of the worst reigns of all time. The Click, Kevin Nash and the Click gets to have awesome matches, but Bret Hart had to feud with Isaac Yankem, a pirate, and Yakushi, and Jerry the King Lawler. So even then, screwing not young guys, but screwing the small wrestlers who were champions. Every time they refused to give Bret Hart the push he as World Heavyweight Champion up until 96. They always kept trying to screw his title reign. They never wanted to truly go in the young direction. They kept trying to go back to Luger instead of recognizing that Bret Hart was what people wanted. The big guys were gone. That era was over. They kept trying to bring back. They kept trying to go to Luger. They kept trying to go to Nash. And I'm a huge fan of Mabel, but he should have stayed a tag team wrestler. He wasn't ready for a world heavyweight champion. He wasn't ready for a world heavyweight title yet. Not yet. He should have stayed in the tag teams. In the tag team. Um. 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 So um. So yeah, I already talked about my problems with the Attitude Era, de-emphasizing wrestling, Crash TV garbage, Crash TV Jerry Springer garbage, garbage. Garbage. Already talked about my problems with the Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression Era, and now PG Era, PG Era. Oh yes, going back to what's his name, going back to the Ruthless Aggression Era. Once again, in the Attitude Era, you fired Guerrero. You fired Eddie Guerrero for his drug problems. JR fired Eddie Guerrero for his drug problems. JR did the right thing by firing Eddie Guerrero for his drug problems. And Eddie Guerrero went on the independent circuit, went to rehab, got help, got his life back on track, Then, I'm mad at Guerrero, but I'm also mad at Vince McMahon for his part in this. Guerrero comes back to WWE. I'm mad at Guerrero for not seeing the writing on the wall. Yes, the Vince McMahon lets you back in the WWE, but he doesn't change his organization. So Eddie Guerrero, who badly wanted to be World Heavyweight Champion, who badly wanted to be at the top of the WWE, he started taking steroids and pain. He started taking steroids and painkillers. He started taking that, along with the road schedule and all of that, led to his young death at the age of 38. And before anyone tries to blame it on Eddie Guerrero's past drug problems, shut up. No one, and I repeat, no one has done drugs, stopped, become sober, becomes sober, goes to rehab, and then died 4 years later. At least they didn't, when they do lots of drugs, they at least like Piper. They at least when they get old, when they get real old, it comes back on them when they get old. Eddie Guerrero was at the young age of 38. Was at the young age of 38. So Vince McMahon is responsible for Eddie Guerrero's death. Is Eddie Guerrero's own fault for not realizing, for not seeing the writing on the wall and staying on the independents and probably going to TNA? Yeah, it would suck because he would not have had those awesome matches with The Rock and Brock Lesnar and became WWE champion. But what price is it? What is it worth if you're light? What is it worth? If you're gonna die young? Same with Benoit. Eddie Guerrero's death visibly affected Benoit. So Benoit really hadn't been the same since really late 2005. But Benoit right here should have saw the writing on the wall when Eddie Guerrero died. What company he was working for, what WWE is all about. Instead, when Jeff Jarrett tried to bring him to TNA, if he still has to wrestle, he should have went to TNA. That way in TNA, he can wrestle whenever he feels. He could have wrestled whenever he felt like it. He didn't have to wrestle. Or instead of doing the other thing, giving up wrestling, but since he still wanted to be involved in wrestling, like Nancy says, start up a wrestling school, start a professional wrestling school. Instead, start a professional wrestling school. He started to do the right thing, but Vince McMahon came knocking down, wanting Benoit to wrestle for the ECW brand. You know, Benoit would love to do that, wrestle for not only ECW, but work with the young guys, and Nancy, this is probably right here when Nancy broke up with him. This is not, they didn't report any of this, but when you look at the evidence, this is obviously what happened. Nancy broke up with him and a fight ensued and Benoit brutally killed Nancy, and he probably didn't want Daniel, Daniel not to have a mother, so he chose to sedate Daniel. Notice he sedated Daniel, so that goes to show you it wasn't a true act of rage. It wasn't a true act of rage and malice, because he chose to sedate him, which means Daniel was unconscious and didn't suffer, didn't know he was being choked, and then killed himself. But It's Benoit's fault because Benoit saw himself as too good to wrestle for TNA, and he refused to do the right thing, which was start up a wrestling school, and chose to come back to wrestling, and it was him who fought and killed Nancy. But I blame Vince for his partners for once again forcing Benoit to travel, all the concussions, all the steroids. And here's the part that pisses me off. Edge, who had a similar problem, Edge, who had a severe neck injury, you can tell Edge to go get checked up. And his wrestling career is over. But I'd rather his wrestling career be over than him get severely injured or die in that ring. You can tell Edge to go get help with his problems. He's okay now. MVP. Back in 2007, they were doing a storyline with him where he was suffering from an illness called Wolff-Parkinson syndrome, something like that. It sounded real cartoonish, and I didn't believe it was real, but because they used it in the storyline. But it turns out, even though they used it in the storyline, that illness was real and is fatal if left untreated. You tell him to go get treated, he's still wrestling and still alive today. But you couldn't do the same for Benoit and Eddie Guerrero. Then you have this garbage drug testing policy. Eddie Guerrero and Benoit had to die. Eddie Guerrero had to die for you to get a drug testing policy. And that's another thing about Mr. McMahon. For him to learn things are bad and stupid, that are wrong, people have to die or get hurt for him to learn that this was bad, that this was terrible. This right here was terrible. And of course, with these guys dying, that led to this garbage PG era we're in today. So several reasons I hate WWE. Now let's go to the PG era. After that god awful WrestleMania 25, I gave up on WWE. They had not made not one new star. And the best match of the night was between Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, a match I didn't even care about, man. No, I didn't even care about. And they had Mickey Rourke on the roster. They had Mickey Rourke on at WrestleMania in a garbage boxing fight with Jericho. Then the crappy Jericho versus Roddy Piper, Snuka, and Steamboat match, with Steamboat being the only saving grace from that match. After that god awful WrestleMania, I quit watching wrestling. I didn't like TNA's product much at the time either. I was done with professional wrestling after that. I came back when Desmond Wolfe, Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff came back to wrestling and came to TNA wrestling, and when Daniel Bryan, and a lot of new guys started appearing in WWE. That's when I came back to professional wrestling. But I was done after that. So that god-awful WrestleMania 25 and SmackDown 2009 was a horrible year. We still had Triple H and Shawn Michaels, DX being shoved down our throats. What else? What else did we have? Oh yes, garbage feud, Hornswoggle and Chavo Guerrero, celebrity guest hosts on Raw. Celebrity guest hosts on Raw, divas like Natalya being buried. It was just garbage, man. It was just garbage. And you thought it was gonna get better in 2010 with Daniel Bryan, Drew Galloway, Sheamus, Heath Slater, Justin Gabriel, and all the new guys. New guys. You thought it was gonna get better. It didn't. And then of course we had the Nexus storyline. One of the best things, the most interesting things to happen to WWE in a long time. NXT rookies tearing up the arena, and pretty much taking over Raw. Nexus got buried. Their only purpose was to put over John Cena. It was not about making him look strong. It was not about making really any real new stars. It was about putting over John Cena. Then of course we got next year, two more interesting things happened. We have the return of The Rock, which in my opinion, The Rock started this reality era they're talking about, even though there's nothing really real about it. There's nothing really real about it. Then of course one of my next favorite angles, the Summer of Punk angle. The Summer of Punk angle. First off, we have The Rock. He pretty much saved wrestling when he came back. When he came back, and he has a feud with Cena. He has a feud with Cena. First of all, I hated this when The Rock came back. They made The Rock. It was entertaining while it lasted, but they made The Rock look like a chump for leaving years ago. And you had all the wrestlers bashing The Rock, talking crap about The Rock because he was coming back and getting the main event, instead of taking up with your boss Vince McMahon, because it's his choice to bury you, taking up with Vince McMahon and the creative team, or just leaving. That they want to blame The Rock, so they made The Rock like a punk for leaving all those years ago. Made The Rock they watered him down. And they finally had him put over John Cena. Instead of having John Cena turn heel, at least for this feud, no, they tried to keep him as a face. They tried to generate sympathy for John Cena. And had him turn heel. Instead of having him turn heel, generate sympathy for John Cena. Then they had The Rock put over that. And as much as I like The Rock, fuck The Rock for agreeing to that. A mega star, an Attitude Era star, putting over John Cena. Who in my opinion is not in his league. Even Randy Orton was more deserving of that than John Cena. John Cena's got the rub from JBL, Triple H, Shawn Michaels. He beat the Nexus. He beat the ECW wrestlers. All these people, and he still can't get over. He still can't become popular with the crowd. He still can't really get over with the crowd. And that's another thing. You put John Cena, a guy nobody likes, for pretty much 10 years. John Cena's been on top. God, all these years. Oh yes. Then finally, Summer of Punk. You have CM Punk win. The WWE title. You have CM Punk win the WWE title. He leaves the company. This gets a lot of media coverage. Then CM Punk comes back only 8 days later. CM Punk comes back 8 days later. He beats John Cena at SummerSlam, only for Kevin Nash to come out and cash in. The Money in the Bank. Only for Kevin Nash to come in, jackknife powerbomb CM Punk, and have ADR come in and cash in and win the World Heavyweight Championship. Then at the next pay-per-view, Triple H comes out and beats CM Punk in a match. Triple H, a guy who's not supposed to be a wrestler anymore, comes out and beats CM Punk in a match. Then at the next pay-per-view, CM Punk teams up with I think it was CM Punk. I think he teamed up with, who did he I forgot who he teamed up with, but he lost to R-Truth. He lost to R-Truth and The Miz. Then finally, at TLC 2011, he finally wins the World Heavyweight Championship. Only after all of this destruction to the CM Punk character. Then when he finally got the belt, you turn CM Punk from a badass tweener anti-hero, into another stereotypical cookie cutter. John Cena 2.0. And you bury him in the mid-card. Even his feud with Laurinaitis, which I was kind of enjoying. Oh, he instead had a match of the year candidate with Daniel Bryan at Over the Limit 2012 in the mid-card, while John Cena got to wrestle Laurinaitis in the main event in what was one of the worst matches of that year. You bury him in the mid card. First off, you sabotaged him and ruined his momentum when he was coming up. Then you buried him in the mid card. Then you constantly buried him in the mid card. And I enjoyed this right here. He finally lost the belt to The Rock, because that 450-day whatever it was title reign he had, it was boring. I was happy The Rock beat him. That was boring. But still, yes, you still had a part-timer beat your top guy for the belt, and he wrestled Undertaker in a match no one cared for. I didn't care about Undertaker and CM Punk. It was awesome, but I didn't care about Undertaker and CM Punk. Fuck WrestleMania 29. One of the worst WrestleManias. One of the worst WrestleManias. One of the worst WrestleManias of all time. And then of course CM Punk left, stopped coming to work, and then eventually was fired. Eventually was fired. I don't know much. I don't know much about that. And really don't care. Really don't care. Daniel Bryan. First off, he wins the title in a terrible way. Money in the Bank, cashing in on Big Show. But at the time I accepted, at least he has the belt. I didn't like the way he won it. I wanted him to man up and win it like RVD did. Like RVD did against Cena. That's what I wanted for him to cash in at WrestleMania like he said he was going to do. Like he said he was going to do. Like he said he was going to do. You have him, then you put him in this garbage. Then you have him associated with AJ's a good wrestler, but as a character personality, I can't stand her. She ruined every angle. She ruined every angle she touched. Then Daniel Bryan wrestled. Then of course Daniel Bryan turned heel, feuded with Sheamus. Then come WrestleMania 28 in the opening match. A world title match. That's the opening match. A world title. That's the opening match. In the opening match, you bury him and the World Heavyweight Championship in an 18-second match, which this right here destroyed your babyface Sheamus and made Daniel Bryan even more popular. Made Daniel Bryan even more popular. The fact they had the audacity to do something like that. Fuck WWE. I don't care if he became more popular after that. The fact they had the audacity to do something like that, to bury Daniel Bryan in the World Heavyweight Championship, my favorite belt, in the opening match, in an 18-second match, on a pay-per-view we paid for. Fuck you, WWE. Fuck your company. And then, of course, after so many storylines, he finally got over. He finally got over. He beats John Cena. Only to have Randy Orton come in and cash it in. Randy Orton come in and cash it in. Randy Orton come in and cash it in. Then of course he finally wins World Heavyweight title at WrestleMania 31, at WrestleMania 31, at WrestleMania 30, not 31, 30, he finally wins the World Heavyweight title. Then he loses it. I keep forgetting, did he lose it or did he forfeited it? Then he loses it and then he loses it again. Then we come around also I forgot about the Royal Rumble 2014 where you didn't even have him in the Royal Rumble, and you got Rey Mysterio and Batista booed. You got Rey Mysterio and Batista booed. Then in 2015, you didn't learn your lesson. You had a final four-way. I keep forgetting the fourth guy, but it consisted of Roman Reigns, Kane and Big Show, and you tried to eliminate him early to get rid of it. Get rid of it. Then of course he wins the Intercontinental Championship. Then of course he has to leave. He has to forfeit it due to severe injuries because you brought him back. You brought Daniel Bryan back way too soon. After getting severely injured. This is why you don't make wrestlers travel. And I don't blame Daniel, well, because Daniel Bryan's style is intense. Of course, he claims he has loss of hearing and a ruptured ear from his intense style from the Indies. He has an intense style, but I blame WWE for his injuries because Daniel Bryan wrestles this high impact style every night. He goes out there and gives 100% every night. This is why you don't make wrestlers travel. And now Daniel Bryan may never wrestle again. Thanks to WWE, constantly making wrestlers travel. And they haven't done anything to the wrestling schedule. They still have a road schedule. For those people saying WWE wrestlers don't travel, Randy Orton. And I think I heard it was him. I saw a video. I saw an article on Lords of Pace talking about Top Star wants a toned down wrestling schedule, wants an easier work schedule. And then I saw Bubba Funk Jr. Bubba Funk Jr. reporting that Randy Orton wanted that. Reporting that Randy Orton, it was Randy Orton who wanted that. So, for anyone trying to say WWE doesn't force wrestling travel, shut up. They had Santino when he was United States champion working hurt. They had Undertaker wrestle Kane in a no disqualification match when he had several injuries in a no disqualification match where more injuries can happen. More injuries can happen. Austin had to work through that serious neck injury, or else he would not have got his spot. And Austin, of course, got sick of being on the road and eventually left. Same with The Rock. The Rock. He saw what happened to Darren Dradas and probably saw that would probably happen to him. So he decided he can make money outside of wrestling. He can make money outside of wrestling. So, forcing wrestlers to travel, forcing wrestlers to travel, forcing them, not allowing them to have lives outside of WWE, with the exception of Brock Lesnar, because Brock Lesnar is bigger than the WWE. Brock Lesnar is bigger than the WWE. So F Vince McMahon for that, killing professional wrestling, just killing professional wrestling. Everything I don't like about professional wrestling, the reason I don't like professional wrestling at all. I still enjoy the indies and stuff, and anything old school. But Vince McMahon is the main reason I don't like professional wrestling. And this right here, and then of course it continues. Oh yes, we get the Stinger. And I want a Stinger. First, I want him to stay away from WWE. I want him to retire and finish his career with TNA and the Indies. That's what I wanted Sting to finish his career. At. Then towards the end of his run, when he was getting older, of course, then I said, okay, yeah, let him go to WWE because he may make the place better. He may make the WWE better. He may make the WWE watchable and better. And it's for the fans. He goes there and jobs and on his first match, his first official match with the company, he goes there and jobs to Triple H at a bland and boring WrestleMania. Then I don't care how good the match was. The storyline. The Sting's role in WWE was supposed to be taking out the Authority. Somehow it should have beat Triple H and ended the Authority. Somehow when the match starts, the Authority's storyline is dropped and it becomes an NWO versus DX, WWE versus WCW feud. Oh, wait a minute. I wanted to see this years ago when the WCW wrestlers invaded WWE. That still pisses me off. I wanted to see that years ago when the WCW wrestlers invaded WWE, but it was Vince McMahon and Undertaker's idea to bury the DDP and the rest of the WCW stars and the ECW stars too. Yeah, you also buried the ECW brand, making yourself champion and jobbing ECW wrestlers out to people like John Cena and testing people like that, man, to your wrestlers, man. And oh yes, the garbage rise and fall of WCW TV, and I mentioned that right there. After first of all, you mocking WCW with that Are You Serious series that Josh Matthews and Road Dogg were doing on Sundays back in 2012. Are you serious? First off, you mocked them in the late 80s. You mocked the late 80s and early 90s, which a lot of people liked that era of WCW better, which was good. Then you get to probably my favorite era of WCW, that pretty much the 93, 95 to 2001 era where you have the WW where pretty much Bischoff came in, Eric Bischoff's era, where from 95 to 98, they were killing the WW. They were kicking your butts in the ratings. So you mock that era. Then you mock the 99 and 2001 era when you're that era now. You get the same ratings as they get. I will not have any mock of WCW with you getting the same ratings that they get with no competition. They were facing huge competition from WWE's edgy attitude era. You get these crappy ratings with no competition, with no real competition from any other wrestling wrestling company, you got money problems, garbage set design. So I will not accept any of this until I will not watch WWE until I see a product, the level of what WCW was, or even a product level of what your product used to be. Product used to be in the new generation era, my favorite era era. So yeah, burying Sting in that match, and if anyone who defends that, fuck you. Fuck you. I don't want any association with you because you people mocked Sting when he was in TNA and finally wanted to come to WWE. And this is the reason he didn't come to WWE. And you don't have any problems with it. You don't have any problems with it. You say you have problems with it, yet you're still watching WWE. You're still supporting, you're still defending everything they do. You're a WWE fan, don't talk to me. You're a sheep to me. And I want no association with you. Crap still pissing me off. Then he shows up months later requesting a title shot against Seth Rollins. Once again, I don't care how good the match was. I didn't even care about the pay-per-view. I just watched this match. Didn't care about how good the match was. The fact that a 56-year-old man nearing 60 was wrestling for the World Heavyweight title, while all the young guys were buried in the mid-card. Same with SummerSlam. 50-year-old man and a part-time in Brock Lesnar were the main event of a pay-per-view. I don't care about the dusty finish, or how even good the match was. The match was awesome. Don't care. It was the fact that these two were featured on my pay-per-view. Same with Amel and Jon Stewart. All these guys were featured on my pay-per-view. While all the young guys were buried in the mid-card. Haven't watched WWE at all since. And never want to watch it again. I may come back to the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania because I like Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. What's his name? WWE. WWE just sucks, man. Man, fuck John Cena. Fuck Triple H. Fuck Undertaker. Yes, fuck Undertaker. I'm going to be burying him in a video. Fuck Vince McMahon. That entire clan. All the shows suck. You have underground promotions like Ring of Honor, which I used to hate more than WWE. Do pretty much respond to every criticism I had, and now I'm a huge fan of Ring of Honor now. You got TNA, not only responds to pretty much all my criticisms, even gives me things I didn't ask for, and with a lesser roster, with less money, puts on a better product with WWE, yet WWE with all the money in the world, all the exposure they have, roster can't seem to put on a good product. Can't seem to put on a good entertaining product. Does not respond to pretty much any of my criticisms. You got people like Roman Reigns, awesome wrestlers but can't talk. How do you have a wrestler who can't speak? Who can't get one of the tools you need to succeed in WWE? How do you have a wrestler who can't talk? And he's a homegrown talent. He's produced by you. He's not from the underground, the indies like everyone else was. He's produced by you. And how do you have a guy who can't talk on your roster? Every other wrestler there, except for Kevin Owens, sucks in comparison to what they were on the indies. Seth Rollins' reign sucks as World Heavyweight Champion. And Seth Rollins, man, looking back, this guy was not even this guy was an awesome wrestler in Ring of Honor, but he was not even the best wrestler of Ring of Honor. So why is he positioned of being the best wrestler in WWE? The best wrestler in WWE. He wasn't even one of the best wrestlers in Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor now is better than it was then when guys like him, Davey and Strong, and Kevin Steen were at top. I think Kevin Steen's the only wrestler who's better in WWE than he was on the indies. These guys were awesome on the indies and undergrounds, but they weren't the best wrestlers there. So why are they positioned as the best wrestlers in WWE? Especially Seth Rollins. Mic skills suck. His mic skills always suck. It was Jimmy Jacobs and Austin Aries carrying those promos back when he was in ROH. Now he's supposed to be this awesome guy on the mic. His mic skills suck. Not Roman Reigns bad, but still not good. Yeah, the WWE, man. WWE just sucks. And I stand up for the wrestlers and while, but the New Day, man, I'm a huge fan of Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, and Big E Langston. But fuck them for agreeing to do this gimmick. Fuck them for agreeing to do this gimmick. This gimmick was put before them. Unless I would have had to stay and work, unless I had a wife and a family to feed, I would have straight left this job, man. I would have straight left this job. And if a creative member came with me with this gimmick, I would slap him twice as hard for insulting my intelligence like this with some of the crappy storylines they give me, man. I would debt Vince. I don't care. I don't care if I got arrested or something like that, man. Because this crap is garbage, and fuck them for not standing up and walking out like CM Punk did, man. CM Punk did. Alright, Doug ain't separate. Doug out, man. Damn.